He had everything: gold, power, divine right to rule, the love of his people, the fear of his enemies, a kingdom so prosperous that traders from across the ocean wrote songs about its wealth. And in one night, one single night of rage, he burned it all to ash. Not by accident, not by invasion, by his own hand, his own thunder, his own uncontrollable temper. I need you to understand something before we go any further. This isn't a story about a villain who got what he deserved. It's a story about how the most dangerous thing in your life isn't your enemies. It's not your circumstances. It's not even your failures. It's the thing inside you that you think makes you strong, that actually makes you destructive. This is the dark psychology of Shango, the Yoruba god of thunder, the king who ruled through fear, who destroyed everything he loved because he never learnt what Anansi knew. And I'm going to show you exactly how his pattern shows up in modern CEOs, in destroyed marriages, in burned bridges, and in the quiet regret that keeps successful people awake at 3 a.m. But first, let me tell you how I almost became him. 3 months after I paid off my debt using the Anansi method, I almost destroyed everything. Not financially, emotionally, relationally. I had finally built something. My business was growing. My partner and I were talking about expansion. We had our first employee, our first office, our first real month of profit. And then a competitor copied our entire model. Every system I'd built, every web I'd woven, they took it, slapped their logo on it, and undercut our prices by 40%. I found out on a Tuesday afternoon. By Tuesday evening, I had written a 2,000-word email that would have ended their business, exposed their founders' past, revealed their sources, destroyed their reputation. I was hovering over send, my finger on the mouse, my heart pounding with that specific kind of rage that feels like power. And then I remembered Mama Ajua. Not the Anansi story this time, the other one she told me, the warning she gave me the same afternoon. She said, "You learned how to build from Anansi, but you also need to learn how Shango burned, because the same fire that forges can also consume." I didn't send the email, but I wanted to. God, I wanted to. And that wanting, the realization that I was capable of that destruction, is what led me to study Shango for the next 2 years. What I found scared me, because Shango's pattern isn't rare. It's common. It's celebrated. It's in every hustle culture meme, every destroy your enemy's motivational post, every CEO who brags about their temper, and it's destroying more success than failure ever could. The Oyo Empire, 14th century, what is now Nigeria. Not a tribe, not a village, an empire stretching across thousands of miles, controlling trade routes that moved gold, salt, and slaves across continents. And at its center, Shango. Not a god yet, just a king, but already showing the signs that would make him divine and damned. Picture the most charismatic leader you've ever met, the kind who walks into a room and everyone turns, who speaks and people believe, who promises victory and delivers it. Now add something else, an edge, a volatility, a sense that this person is barely contained, that their power could warm you or burn you and you're never sure which. That was Shango. He came to power young, too young some said, but he proved them wrong. Military genius, administrative reformer, builder of the empire's greatest expansion. His signature move? Personal combat, leading from the front, fighting alongside his soldiers while other kings stayed in palaces. His soldiers loved him for it, his enemies feared him for it, and Shango, he became addicted to it. The rush of victory, the submission of the defeated, the proof over and over that he was strongest, that his will determined outcomes, that his anger, when unleashed, created results. This is the first trap, the one every high performer falls into. The belief that your intensity is your advantage, that your willingness to go further, hit harder, burn hotter than anyone else is what makes you successful. And it works until it doesn't. Shango had 3 wives. In Yoruba tradition, this was normal for kings, political alliances, strategic partnerships. But Shango didn't treat them as politics. He treated them as possessions, extensions of his power, reflections of his glory. And when one of them, Oya, the warrior, began to rival him in popularity among the soldiers, something shifted. Not jealousy. Jealousy would have been manageable. This was threat perception. Shango didn't see Oya's success as additive to the kingdom. He saw it as subtractive from him. Zero-sum thinking. If she gained power, he lost it. If people admired her, they diminished him. This is the second trap. The inability to distinguish between your success and your significance. Modern version. The founder who fires their star employee for showing them up. The parent who sabotages their child's confidence to maintain authority. The partner who resents their spouse's growth. Shango's response to threat wasn't strategic. It was explosive. He accused Oya of conspiring against him, of sleeping with his generals, of witchcraft designed to steal his power. The evidence? His own paranoia, his own insecurity dressed up as intuition. And when Oya denied it, when she stood before him with the same courage that had made her his warrior, Shango's rage found its target. He struck her, publicly, in front of the court.
Not a king disciplining a subject, a man losing control to a woman who matched him. The court was silent. The soldiers who had loved them both were confused. And Shango, in that silence, heard something that terrified him. He heard that he had gone too far, and he couldn't stand it. Here's where Shango's story diverges from simple villainy. He didn't deny what he'd done. He didn't rationalize it. In the privacy of his chamber, away from the court, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Shame. Not guilt. Guilt would have led to apology, to repair, to change. Shame led to destruction. Because Shango's entire identity was built on being right, being strong, being the source of thunder and fire, and unquestionable power. And if he was wrong about Oya, if he had struck an innocent woman, his own wife, out of paranoid rage, then what was he? The question was unbearable, so he didn't bear it. Instead, he did what high performers with unprocessed shame always do. He escalated. If Oya was innocent, then his rage was unjustified. And if his rage was unjustified, then his rage was the problem. And if his rage was the problem, then he had to eliminate the evidence. Not Oya. She was already gone, fled to the forest with his other wives who finally saw their own danger. No. Shango had to eliminate the feeling, the shame, the unbearable reality that he had burned his own house down. So he burned it for real. The palace, the treasuries, the sacred groves, the accumulated wealth of generations. Some stories say it was lightning, his divine power uncontrolled. Some say it was torches, his human choice made final. The result was the same. Ash, ruin, empire cracked open for enemies who had waited decades for this moment. And Shango, he walked into the fire, or the forest, or the sky, depending on which version you believe. The mythology says he became an Orisha, a god of thunder, worshipped, feared, invoked. But the psychology says something else. It says he became a warning, a pattern, a story told to teach what happens when power meets unregulated emotion. The fire that forges becomes the fire that consumes. I told you I almost became him. Let me tell you how I didn't. That email I didn't send, the one that would have destroyed my competitor, I wrote it. Every word, every revelation, every nuclear option I had. But I didn't send it because of something I learned studying Shango's pattern. Shango's destruction wasn't caused by his anger. It was caused by his relationship to his anger. He believed his anger was power, that it made him effective, that the times it had worked, intimidating enemies, motivating soldiers, winning battles, proved it was a tool to keep using. What he missed, those were specific contexts with specific boundaries, and success in bounded context doesn't translate to unbounded ones. The same rage that wins a battle loses a marriage. The same intensity that closes a deal destroys a partnership. The same thunder that inspires fear poisons trust. This is the Shango test, and I apply it every time I feel that heat rising. Question 1. Is this anger solving a problem or expressing a wound? Shango's rage at Oya wasn't about her. It was about his fear of being surpassed, his unprocessed insecurity about whether his power was real or performed. Question 2. Am I attacking the situation or the person? Situations can be fixed. People can only be destroyed or forgiven. Shango chose destruction because repair would have required admitting fallibility. Question 3. If I win this confrontation, what do I lose? Shango won his battle with Oya. He proved he could dominate her physically, and he lost his kingdom, his legacy, his humanity. Question 4. What am I not feeling right now? This is the crucial one, because anger is often a secondary emotion. It covers fear, it covers shame, it covers grief. Shango couldn't feel his fear of irrelevance, so he felt rage. He couldn't process his shame, so he burned everything. When I asked myself that fourth question, hovering over send, I found what I was really feeling. Fear that my success was fragile, that I'd gotten lucky, that without the Anansi method, I was still that person with $47,000 debt and no options. The competitor didn't cause that fear, they revealed it. And sending that email wouldn't have addressed it. It would have masked it temporarily until the next threat and the next. Each escalation requires more destruction to maintain the illusion of control. I deleted the email, not because I forgave them, because I refused to become Shango. Here's what I did instead. I studied them, the competitor, their model, their weaknesses, their customers, and I found what Anansi would have found, a distribution problem. They had copied my product, but they hadn't copied my web. They didn't have the relationships, the community, the trust that takes years to build. So I doubled down on the web. More partnerships, more value given before value asked, more platform, less product. 6 months later, they were struggling to retain customers. Not because I destroyed them, because I outbuilt them. And the energy I would have spent on destruction, I spent on construction. This is the choice. This is always the choice. Shango represents the seductive path of intensity, of emotional expression as power, of destruction as solution. Anansi represents the harder path of system building, of delayed gratification, of network effects that take longer but last longer. Most successful people oscillate between them. I know I do. The goal is not to never feel Shango's fire. The goal is to recognize it for what it is, a signal, not a strategy. When you feel that heat, that certainty that destroying someone or something will solve your problem, pause. Ask the 4 questions, find the primary emotion, and choose your action from there. Not from the wound, from wisdom. I want you to do something. Think about the last time you burned something down, a relationship, an opportunity, a reputation, maybe just a bridge's worth of goodwill. What were you really feeling? Not the anger, underneath it. Comment below if you are brave enough, or just write it for yourself. Because here's what I've learned from Shango. The fire doesn't care if you are right. It doesn't care if you are justified. It consumes everything. Anansi built a web that caught wealth. Shango burned a kingdom that took generations to build. Both are in you. The question is which you feed. Next, we're going deeper. The woman who outsmarted gods and monsters, the most feared deity in the Yoruba pantheon, the original femme fatale who understood power better than any king, Oya, the warrior who escaped Shango, who became the wind itself, who teaches us that the most dangerous thing isn't strength or cunning, it's knowing when to disappear. Subscribe, hit the bell, and ask yourself, what am I burning that I should be building?